It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back from Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I take my first pass at the Commander in front of us on a budget, on my quest out brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing. That's what we're back to do today. That deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. So I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe. Consider checking out those links in the description. I'd really appreciate it. But today, we're celebrating legendary vehicles being legal commanders now with Edge of Eternities, and today we're talking about the Indomitable. A 4-mana blue vehicle with trample, and whenever a creature we control deals combat to a player, we draw a card. And that's where the deck's going to try to focus on. Getting our creatures to be evasive in the air and hit and draw cards, paying off draw mattering, and just try to draw enough cards to put ourselves into a great position to take over the game. But I want to say a quick thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in seeing all of our videos a little bit early for just $1 a month, consider checking that out down below. I really appreciate it. Well, all right. The deck's pretty much mostly made up of cheap evasive threats. And the thought there is they're going to have flying or some other evasion, making them harder to block, meaning more card draw, digging into more answers for the things, and setting up more value. Diversion use a little 2/1 for 2 in the air that can pay a blue and sack to counter an instant or sorcery unless its controller pays 3. Good way to give up, leave up some control, right, without needing to have a counter spell in hand. Fairy Mastermind says whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card, and then for 4 mana we could force each player to draw a card. Kitestyle Larcenist comes in, and for each player you choose up to one other target artifact or creature they control, and for as long as the Larcenist is out, it just becomes a treasure with no abilities other than the treasure's abilities. This is a huge way to lock key things down, and it's pretty aggravating for most players to get their commander or some key creature they really want locked into a treasure, and Larcenist can play some nice control in that sense. Ledger Shredder, whenever a player casts their second spell, it connives, so there's a chance to grow and get some cards into our graveyard. We're playing both 2 versions of Malcolm, the one from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Whenever it hits a player, you put a chorus counter on it, draw, and then pitch a card. If there's 4 more chorus counters on it, you can play whatever we discard without paying its mana cost. Good way to potentially cheat out some really big things. And then the regular the original Malcolm, whenever one of our pirates we control hit a player. Whenever one of our pirates control deal damage to your opponents, create a treasure for each opponent dealt damage. So basically, we get a treasure for each opponent we're going to hit in combat. And we have a lot of flying pirates, so it's going to be really easy for us to trigger Malcolm. Mausoleum Wanderer, a 1-mana 1/1, but it says whenever we can sack the creature to counter target instant sorcery spell unless controller plays X, where X is its power. And again, we have ways to buff our flyers, so Mausoleum should hopefully counter it unless they pay 2 or 3. Oaken Siren can tap for a blue, but only to cast an artifact spell or activate the ability of an artifact source. Again, great for something like the Indomitable, right? We want to cast it, so Oaken's going to help us do that, and then it's a 1/2 in the air. Silent Hall Creeper, whenever it hits a player in combat, we choose one that hasn't been chosen, put a couple counters on it, draw a card, or make it the copy of another creature, and it can't be blocked. So it's going to be pretty much guaranteed to get in, and then we could pick a really good creature to make it a copy of. Siren Storm Tamer, for a blue, can sack itself to counter a spell or ability that targets you or a creature we control, and then, again, it's a 1/1 flyer. Spectral Sailor is just a 1/1 flyer, but for 4 mana, we can draw a card if need be, if we get really to that late game and just need to burn our mana. Spyglass Siren comes in and makes a map, but again, it's a 1/1 pirate that counts for all of our other abilities. And the pirates are important because remember, the Indomitable can be cast from our graveyard if we have so many pirates. So we can hopefully get around the commander tax, right, by getting it back out of the graveyard. Sworn Operator can tap for 1 blue to cast artifact spells and 2 blue to activate artifacts abilities. Again, the important thing is that it's a 1/1 flyer that can also tap to help cast the Indomitable. Stormfleet Negotiator, whenever it attacks, each player reveals the top card of their library, and for each non-land one revealed this way, we get a map, then each player draws a card. The maps can help us dig, right, finding lands, putting counters on our creatures. And then Thieving Skydiver can come in and gain control of target artifact with mana value X or less. And if it's an equipment, you get to attach it to the Skydiver. X can't be 0, so we do have to try to steal something, whether it's a Soul Ring or a Signet or a 2 or 3 mana Rock. Skydiver can come in and take something, right? And then it has flying, so it can still be evasive for us. Warkite Marauder, whenever it attacks, target creature defending player controls loses all abilities and becomes a 0/1 till end of turn. So a really nice way to not only lock down a key blocker for our opponents, but maybe shut off a nasty ability that's preventing us from something and just make it out of the way. Cargo ship can tap to cast an artifact spell, or it's just a one cost, one crewing vehicle that has decent stats in the air. I kind of like that it both can tap for mana and be crewed if we needed to. And then Double Down lets us copy all of our outlaw spells. We have a lot of pirates in the deck, so we should be able to copy all of them for just more of them and more evasion. Of course, we're playing other ways to draw cards, things like Enduring Curiosity, Biden of Thassa, and then 2 more in the next slide. But we also get to add something like Mu Yan Ling. Since all of our creatures have flying, it says whenever one or more of our creatures you control with flying deal damage to a player or draw a card, we have it that way. And then when she comes in, she makes another artifact or another vehicle that we can crew that also has flying, so we can actually get some extra damage in there. And then we have things like Coastal Piracy and Reconnaissance Mission. Again, more draw when our creatures hit, dig through our deck, find those things. Again, we can pay off drawing, and especially in a huge way with some of these creatures that say whenever you draw your second card each turn, do something. Alondra makes drakes, Mischievous Mystic makes fairies, and we got a couple more on the next page to do that as well. Teferi is a very interesting one. So whenever you draw a card, you can put a loyalty counter on it. That's pretty nice because it had a couple brutal abilities. The -2 can make a spirit that grows whenever we draw a card. Again, can make it a real threat. But its -12 says target opponent chooses a permanent they control and just shuffles the rest of their non-land permanents into their library. This is a brutal ability for an opponent and can really help us take some opponents out of the game, right? Get their things off the board and start to control the board as we, again, continue to use all of these flyers to hit our opponents. Thopter Fabricator makes us a Thopter on the second card draw. And again, we have 2 other abilities here that just care about whenever we draw a card. Psychosis Crawler will deal damage to our opponents. A great way, or lose a life to our opponents. A great way to stop ourselves from just drawing our entire deck and still having some ways to hurt our opponents. And then Ominous Seas, whenever we draw a card, we put a counter on it. You can remove 8 counters for it to make a big Kraken token. So again, another big threat for our opponents. But we also want to try to take advantage of just more than that. Things like Sinet and Heraldic Banner can buff all of our creatures, allowing them to hit for damage each time. Strixhaven Stadium is a really interesting mana rock. It can tap for a colorless mana and add a point counter to it. But whenever a creature we control hits a player, we get to put a point counter on it. But if it has 10 or more point counters, remove all of them and that player loses the game. Strixhaven Stadium is really interesting, and we can use it to our advantage to kind of attack people and hit people at the right time to knock them out. Big note with Strixhaven Stadium, because this is a triggered ability whenever whenever one of our creatures hits an opponent. If you were to put enough triggers on Strixhaven Stadium to knock multiple players out, if we truly hit people with 20 creatures, we could trigger this bottom ability twice because they're literally all going to go on the stack, and we would resolve them. It's a pretty interesting thing. I have seen it happen, and it's pretty fun to do when you can. Farewell Winds, again, just giving all our creatures with flying a buff. And then Psychic Corrosion, whenever we draw a card, everybody mills too. Again, helping us with just not drawing through our library without nothing to find for it. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is our first shot at the Indomitable. And I think going into testing, we want to see, do we have enough ways to pay off drawing cards? You know, something like Wizard's Class could really help grow our creatures. We have more of those types of abilities. Nexus of Fate could just allow us to, we could go into more of the extra turn spells, just taking advantage of our momentum when we have them and really hitting our opponents. And then my thought was something like Chrome Host Seed Shark can make those incubator tokens, which are creatures that can, or tokens that flip over into creatures, could just help make our board wide. I think the answer is more things like Wizard's Class, but it's, and of course the, you know, the extra turn stuff of the world. But it's good to see where our deck's at, get some testing, and then, you know, continue to make those changes over time. But let's do what we love doing on the channel the most and get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtests on our channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not just to show off all our best plays, but it's to get into our gameplay scenarios and kind of see what hands are we looking to keep and how we're going to set this thing on up. Here I've got a 3-lander with Diversion Unit. Oaken Siren can help us with mana. Alondra there for that second card drop. Propaganda can hopefully stop our opponents from hurting us. Seagate Restoration is a really interesting draw, allowing us to draw a bunch of cards and have no maximum hand size. Merchant Raiders is one of those pirates I really like. Whenever it or another pirate comes in, you tap down a creature and it doesn't untap for as long as you control the raiders. So if we can find multiple pirates, right, we can really take advantage of the raiders that way. I kind of like just getting the Indomitable down here. Can't attack with a Siren this turn, but that's okay because we could get something like Alondra in this turn. and then just have the siren go attacking, and it's in the air, so it has a hot chance to draw us a card, right? And then make us that Drake from Alondra. Now, the interesting thing to remember to note about Alondra is if you can manage to draw your 5th card each turn, or during one of our turns, it gives a buff to all of our Drakes, but we'd have to do that pre-combat, right? Otherwise, all of our draws are going to come from combat. It's just important to know that it is an option. We'll go with Thought Vessel for no maximum hand size. Then my thought is Sinette, buff those flyers. Indomitable is 3, so I mean, we could crew it with like the Drake if we want to. But I kind of like the idea of the Drake attacking, right? Sorry, we make a jellyfish when she comes in. For some reason, the jellyfish is not listed, so we'll just make it a bird. So we could go it and Alondra to crew up the Indomitable if we wanted to. That's 1, 2, probably 3 points of Thamage, 3 card draw, make another Drake, right? Just the whole point there is we're really just getting, as much damage as we can in our opponents. And we have Mockingbird can come in as a copy of anything we want. Again, can't be a legendary one because it doesn't change its name. There's Curse of the Swine for some removal. Otherwise, 6 mana, right? I kind of like Diversion Unit here, plus Propaganda. Still try to halt those counterattacks. I can crew this diversion using because of that buff, and now I'm probably 1, 2, 3, 4 in the air, and then the Indomitable on the ground. So probably 4, if not 5, and then make another Drake. So now you can see our game plan's really starting to go up there. We have Flare Denial for some protection. We have the Diversion Unit for some protection. Remember, Flare is free if we sack a blue creature. There's Raise the Palisade. We could call something like Pirate. That wouldn't make much sense. We could call Drake. Again, it wouldn't make much sense. It'd bounce a bunch back to our hand. But I mean, the goal here is, would it bounce our opponent's things back to our hand? I think that makes the most sense, right? Get down something like the Wanderer to continue to protect our board. We could go Seagate just to draw 9 more cards, have no maximum hand size, and just continue to dig deep to find more things. I mean, there's a lot of philosophy on what we could go for at this point. I'd love to find more ways to just buff our board, right? Since we've got some of these flyers. I mean, we have a bunch of these 3/3s, right? I almost want to Seagate just for the fun of it. Just to see what we can get ourselves into. We used all of our mana, but I mean, that's okay. We'll just end up drawing what? That'll make a Drake. I just realized that triggers Alondra, right? We drew our 5th card, so it and all of our Drakes get +X for X the number of cards in our hand, which is 19. So these Drakes are now, 22s this turn? Except the one we just made. Alondra gets the big buff, and I mean, now you have a chance to just knock some people out with the Drakes, and just have a ton of fun. And then we have so much counterplay in our hand if we need it. I just think we're in good shape, right, from that point, especially with no maximum hand size. Our hand's just going to stay that big. Here in place number 2, catching a 3-lander with Malcolm. Larcenist, there's the Fabricator to make the Thopters, and then Skyray. Skyray says whenever we pitch one of our cards, we put that many counters on this creature. My thought that is that if we start drawing and we don't have enough ways to play all of our cards, we might eventually start discarding cards, which is where I think Skyray come in handy. You could flash Malcolm in on somebody else's turn if you want to, make them think we have a board wipe or something like that. Mercer Captain's not a terrible idea. Comes in and makes a treasure and buffs all the rest of our pirates. Might be a little early for the Larcenist. We might not have read enough good targets for it. Go ahead and have Malcolm attack, draw, and then pitch, putting the chorus counter on it. Problem is I like all of them, but I guess it's probably just Skyray. I mean, Skyray works really well with Malcolm, right? Because then we're pitching cards every time. We just didn't have the mana to get down this turn, but I don't want to let this go away. And I truthfully like everything in my hand. I guess there's an argument for the Raiders in that it's one of the only things that isn't, that. Maybe we go Cargo plus Skyray. Attack with Malcolm. Draw. I guess pitch the island, put the counter on the Skyray, right? So now we're working ourselves here. That comes in tapped. Play the Indomitable. We can crack the cargo ship if we want to, or we can just crew the cargo ship with the captain, right? We could do that. attack. I mean, again, Malcolm draws and discards. Remember, next turn, whatever we pitch will be free. It has to be 4 counters. I guess the Fabricator, I like the Drake a little bit more on making the tokens. That's another counter there, and we draw what? At least 1 or 2, right? Because of the Skyray probably hitting as well. Time Stream Navigator, a way to take an extra turn after this one. If we can get in and get it going. I think it's just Alondra. Hold up the Swan Song. It's 3 to crew the Indomitable. We don't want to crew it with Malcolm because we want Malcolm to hit, right? Then we can get something free in. We crew the ship with like Alondra if we wanted to. Still 2 key attackers in the sky. So we're going to end up drawing... let's go 3 off what we'll end up hitting. No reason not to do it first, right? Because it is on combat damage. Then we'll do a Malcolm's trigger. Guess I'll just put down, put the propaganda in for free. That makes us a Drake off of Alondra. And now, right, we're really starting to build a board. 7 mana. Lots of mana. I love the idea of the Ominous Seas, especially if we're going to start hitting our opponents hard. Could set up Time Stream for next turn. Silent Creeper might not be a bad copy of something like Corsair Captain to really buff the rest of our pirates if that's our plan. 2 for the Seas, 2 for the Keeper, 2 for the Navigator. This holds up Swan Song. Crew the Indomitable. Crew the cargo ship. 1, 2, 3 hits guaranteed. 4 if we count the Drake. And then the Indomitable probably hits 2. So you're looking at probably like 5 cards drawn. So that's another Drake. And then Malcolm goes off because it's not a May. So draw and then discard. What are we going to do? Let's do the favorable wins. Another counter there. And I mean, now we're just in good shape. Favorable wins is buffing all of our flyers. So they're going to hopefully start hitting harder. And I think now someone's just really got to get rid of that time stream. Because I think otherwise we're just going to really start, right, taking over the game. There's the double down, but it's just a teeny bit late. Biden can really help us draw more cards. Could allow us to really get into that Ominous Seas. It's how much to activate this? 4. So if I go into Biden, I still have enough for that. Right? Crew the Indomitable again. Crew the cargo ship again. Sorry, that goes up when we draw cards from our turn, right? Every creature with flying is getting +1/+1. All our pirates are getting an extra 1. Go down combat and attack. You have 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the air. Sky Creeper. Hull Creeper is going to automatically hit in. So that's 6. And then you have the Indomitable with Trample. So potentially 7 cards drawn there. Let's say we hit all of them. This goes up to 14. And then you have your Malcolm trigger. Little late on the Haven, but I think it can really help us next turn. Unfortunately, that will trigger Alondra. It's just, unfortunately, it's until end of turn. So unfortunately, we just can't take advantage of that. There, and then the Strixhaven will be down. It won't streep. And then I realized it'll be a couple more, right? Because of the Biden of Thassa. We'll have Higher Creeper draw us. We pitch that, so that gets a counter. And then, crack the time stream, take another turn. We can make 2 big Krakens. Have this go down to 4. Make, like I said, make the 2 big Krakens so they can attack next turn. And then coming into our next turn, now we can potentially light the stadium up to be an option. Do I have any way to draw a massive amount of cards? Try to buff all of our Drakes to deal big damage? I don't see any. Love the idea of getting something like Teferian, not only to make that spirit, but to just grow itself. Sorry, Time Stream shuffles in. That's my bad. Or is it the bottom? It's the bottom, isn't it? I did that wrong, didn't I? Yeah, it's the bottom. All right, so Teferi for 5. really see the reason to use its ability because we're just going to draw a massive amount of cards, right? I think we'd go after one opponent. Crew the Cargo, crew the Indomitable. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things that can hit a player. In the air, the Krakens, we could attack with Corsair, we could attack with the Laundra. Again, just trying to get enough things into our opponent to trigger Strixhaven Stadium. I guess we could have tapped it last turn to put a point counter. We could tap it again this turn, do it. I think we have enough flyers to knock one person out, and then with the draws, we have enough to put on Teferi to just nuke somebody's board, and then we can just hold up the mana for the counterplay in our hands, right? And just try to really just hurt our opponents from that point, right? Just to hold on to the value. Did we have maximum hand size last turn? Or am I just dreaming this? We didn't. We would have had to have pitched a bunch last turn, wouldn't we have? I guess we can get the decanter down this turn, but I think we would have had to have pitched a bunch, but that is what it is. I think we pretty much demonstrated our goal there, right? Let's get into playtest number 3. There's our little flyers. Storm Tamer, Sailor. Hypnotic Sprite, which is going to be a counterspell or a 2/1 flyer. So we like it, right? This is the game plan. Get these cheap flyers in, make them work. That leads to a turn 3 Indomitable. Draw off the Storm Tamer hitting, right? Here, 4 mana, 5 if we cast an artifact. So we go like this. Attack with the Storm Tamer, draw a card, make a treasure, right? That leaves up the mana for Storm Tamer or the diversion unit if we need to stop somebody. This turn we're just a couple mana off of Seagate Restoration. We could just attack first. We'd have 4 of creatures with flying hitting, drawing 4 cards, and then making us another treasure, and that would be enough to crack the restoration to draw what? 8 more. Just to get us right more into the value of what we can find. 6 mana. Stadium. So I'm putting a point counter out, so we're still at 5 mana. We could either go to Cancer to try to build up for next turn, or like do something like the Chasm Skulker to grow itself. I go to Canter, down to 3 mana. We have the free up and flare. Just trying to think of what makes the most sense to get these things on board. Maybe the Chasm Skulker, just to set ourselves up for more card draw next turn. And now we're coming into this turn again. We're trying to go for that Strixhaven Stadium. I'm sure we 7 mana, 8, 9, 10 mana, such a bunch of mana. We could try to lock down some things with Larcenist. Otherwise, I think we're just going for the Strixhaven victory, right? So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just put a bunch of flyers down for next turn. Take the attacks. We're going to end up drawing what? We can even crew into the Indomitable. What we're drawing 4 or 5, making a treasure. 4 or 5 counters onto the stadium. A bunch of Chasm triggers, right? We have the counter play up with Storm Tamer, I do believe. We got this and the treasure up. So we've got this still. We've got this still to protect the board. And again, next turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 flyers, more than enough to crack off the stadium. And I think we're just in good shape, right? I mean, I think you can kind of see the brand, right? Cheap flyers in the air, hit our opponents, and have a good time. But I'd love to know, what do you think of the Indomitable down in the comment section below? I think it's a fun idea for a deck. Of course, you can choose what you want your creatures to be, whether it's just go wide tokens and not care about the evasion or care about the evasion. There's so many ways you can make this your own. And I'd love to know what you think down in the comment section below. I will catch you all in the next.